Hey, little one.
She's cute.
Yeah, you never got to meet her. She's
She's the latest addition.
Yeah, she keeps me busy.
I bet.
Hey, I think we're going to get started. I'm letting one more person in from the waiting room. This is normally our Thursday poetry book launch, but today an exception for my friend and colleague, Cheryl Meola, because she's written a book that I felt like was so incredibly timely. And of course, it's being published during the pandemic, but it's about anxiety. And how long have we been working together? 5 years?
It'll be 6 at the end of this month. On and off.
Yeah, on and off. That's fantastic. And now we've co-founded a nonprofit therapeutic horsemanship program. And I'm going to turn it over really quickly because I just realized it's 7:05 and I really want to have you read from your book. And then we also have your writing coach here, Ellen. So people might have some questions about that dynamic and also about how Cheryl, first came up with the idea of this book and how you move from idea to fruition to actually having a book. If you're in luck, we can also do questions and answers, and we're going to have one experiential opportunity during this. Is that correct?
Yeah, and if you guys have either Post-its or some paper and pencil handy, that would be helpful if you want to participate in the...
You're asking writers if we want to write? Yes.
Post-its are best, but you can also move paper around too.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm going to put you as the spotlight, Cheryl, and then it's all yours. This is being videotaped. If you do want to read at the end for open mic, just send me a message. There you go.
Cool.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, I have a little movement here because my fan's on, so I see like my hair moving. So this is my book, and it seems kind of surreal to hold it. I actually just got my copy today because we were at the beach all week. So it's called Anxiety, the Joule Thief, How to Take Back Control of Your Life. And as a background, I'm a therapist. I worked for 5 years in Massachusetts with a low-income population, high trauma, high drug use, homelessness, things like that. And as much as like we try to help them, we end up being really like caseworkers. And when I moved here and I got my PhD and I started a private practice, I started to really be able to dive in with people who are in a space that they could actually work on things and change and weren't going home to something that was constantly traumatizing them and stuff. And so that's sort of where this book fits in. It's more for someone who maybe has tried therapy or maybe doesn't have the time or the money or the ability to really understand why anxiety happens to you, what it actually is, and then some exercises that you can work on to work through it. And I don't think it's like for everybody who has anxiety, because there are some medical reasons that we have anxiety and other things going on in our lives. But if you feel like you're in a spot where you can work on this yourself, or you want to bring it in and work on it with other people or your therapist, I think it's just a bunch of activities that can help get you where you want to go. And the reason I started writing a book, it's been on my vision board for a while, but I didn't say this is what I'm doing this year or anything. I started working in online therapy. I don't know if anyone's heard of like Talkspace or BetterHelp, but I started working part-time for Talkspace. And so I had to write out activities for people to do. And I thought, this is weird. As an experiential therapist, I'm having to use just words to help work people through where they're at. And so I started to make the exercises a little more interactive, and I started to put words to them. And that's kind of where this all started. And the name, so my publisher wasn't a huge fan of the name, The Joule Thief. She was like, people can't Google that, but I have more faith in people than she does, and I don't really care. Came from a client I was working with, and it's been so long that I'm not 100% sure of the origin, but we were talking about how anxiety is an energy thief and how our worries are little energy thieves that steal things. And we were using these little jewels, which are like pieces of sea glass that I have from the ocean that I had in my office. And I just said, let's just use these for one of the activities. And she was like, oh, it's like the Joule thief. And I love that because that's exactly what it does. Anxiety takes little pieces of us and little pieces of our energy every day when we're not even noticing. And suddenly it's the end of the day, we're exhausted and we haven't put any time or energy into what we actually care about. I don't know how many of you have felt that way, but I certainly had more days like that than not for a long time. So I'm hoping that if anybody picks up the book that you'll get some ideas from it, some things to at least think over. Maybe some of the activities will really speak to you. Maybe you'll be like me when I get a book and just sit down and go straight from the front to the back and do all the activities, because otherwise you feel like an underachiever. But I'm working on that because that's also a piece of anxiety. It's great that Ellen's here. Ellen was my writing coach, and when I started to realize that this was going to be a book, I thought, oh, well, how do I do that? And I just went on Google and I spent hours looking at different people and I interviewed a bunch of writing coaches. I remember one called me when I was in a gas station restroom, and I don't know why I answered the phone, but I answered and I was talking to her and people kept flushing the toilet. And I was like, well, this just isn't going to work out. But that was not Ellen. Ellen was amazing, and she had so much experience and wisdom to share with me that I feel like we just kicked it into full gear. I mean, February and March, I did the whole second half of the book when COVID started, because I was home and we were talking about what was already there, and we were like, we really need to finish this and get this out there to help people. And so that's kind of where it all came from. I don't know if I'm missing anything that's really important to the story. You'll find that, I don't know how many of you know anything about sand dollars, but I again, get a little obsessive when I love something. And so you'll notice that there's a broken sand dollar on the front of the book. And the first story, when you open it, is about like my journey with anxiety. And my greatest turning point was on a walk on the beach about 4 years ago. And it's funny because just today I got back from the very same beach. And I was just exhaustingly picking up seashells. And I was really frustrated because I couldn't find a sand dollar. And I love sand dollars. They've always been my favorite since I was a kid, and we used to go to Maine and pick them up. And I just couldn't find one. So I went home and I was kind of upset. I went back to the beach house, and the next day I went out for a run. So I totally was not thinking about sand dollars. I just put my sneakers on, went for a run. And no matter what I tried to focus on, I had earphones in, everything, I just kept seeing pieces of sand dollars, and I would stop and pick one up, stop and pick up another one. I don't know if you guys have ever done that. And then you look at your hands and you're like, what am I doing? I can't even like move. I have so many seashells, right? So, but I really wanted to find a whole sand dollar to show my son because he had never seen one. And finally I sat down and I put all the seashells out, and I'm like, why am I picking up all these broken pieces of shells? And as I sat there, I started to cry a little bit, and I was like, this is what I do in life. Like everything I see broken, I have to pick up. I have to pick it up and try to fix it and put it somewhere it makes sense. And I was like, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted just thinking about this. And it was like an overcompensating fear of not being there for people, not doing enough, right? All those things, never being enough. I don't know how many of you have felt that. So I put them all out on the beach, and I picked out a couple that I thought Christopher would really like. And I thought, that's my son, that, you know, he doesn't care that they're broken. He's going to think these are beautiful, the best thing I ever brought him. And I put the rest back, and I just walked back with the 2 pieces I had picked. And I went home and I journaled, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I think something just happened. Like, I just let something free, and it feels amazing. And when I started thinking about writing a book, I was just kind of going through old papers, and I found the story that I wrote him. And I was like, that's it. This is what I'm going to do. So that's kind of how the book starts. And I thought I would leave that piece for you guys if you want to read it, because it's kind of a cool story. And I would just tell you a little bit more about how the book could help you. Does that sound good? So I'm going to read a little bit from the intro. And it says, if you have picked up this book, you are probably stressed in some way. Chances are you've spent an excessive amount of time and energy worrying about something as small as the way a person looked at you at the grocery store, to something big like your family's health or financial stability. And chances are you've caught yourself worrying about worrying too much. That's me. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I feel this way? Or why am I so stressed? What's the matter with me? Well, stress is a part of everyone's life. We all experience stressors just in different ways. Stressors can steal away our time and energy from what we really care about if we let them. And in this overstimulating era that we live in, it's easy to get swept away in these kind of worries like, am I doing enough? Am I a good enough mom? Successful enough? Independent enough? Am I too fat? Am I too broke? Am I not eating clean enough? Am I eating too clean? Am I not faithful to my religion or my spirituality? So we can spiral down into this place of reaching for things to worry about without even knowing how we got there in the first place. So this is when stress becomes anxiety, the constant worrying about an overwhelming amount of things at once. But anxiety is not our enemy. Anxiety is what happens when we put too much of our energy into stressors that are out of our control. So what was meant to be a temporary response to an external stressor becomes our normal way of reacting to things. We immediately read too much into what is going on around us. I'm sure we can relate to that all a little bit. What people say to us and about us is a common place we get stuck. Often the worries come full circle and we start worrying about why we're worrying too much again. So what we want to do is we want to move at some point to a place where we are not reacting from a fear-based state of worry, but an empowered state of action and strength. So again, anxiety is not our enemy. It's our body's stress response to a never-ending replay of what is going on in our mind and what happened yesterday and what might happen tomorrow. It steals our energy joules away from the things we care about. This makes anxiety our biggest jewel thief. It does not think those things should be important when we are not safe. Learning to work through this fear-based response rather than avoid this fear-based response and replace it with a strength-based response is what we're going to do in this book, and will help take back our energy joules and spend them where we deem important. So I'm going to talk a little bit, I'm not going to talk a little bit, I'm going to read from the book actually. I'm going to read you a little story about where I started working through these energy joule things. So chapter 1 is called, What's Your Beach Money? My youngest son, Austin, always wakes up as animated as a baby lemur at feeding time. Man, that kid uses his rest well. One morning, he was playing around in my bed while I was trying to get a little more shut-eye, and he rolls my arm over to look at my forearm tattoo, which is a broken sand dollar. I can kind of show you. And he says, Mommy, I just love your beach money picture. And I opened one eye and looked at him, and it's really beautiful what kids say, right? I just loved that expression, beach money. So that tattoo has a lot of symbolism for me, as we've talked about, and that's why it's on my body in a place I can see it regularly. It's a reminder that not all broken sand dollars are mine. Beauty is in the creation of new things from broken ones. Little did Austin know when he associated sand dollar with beach money that in some ancient cultures, the sand dollar represents mermaid money or coins from the lost city of Atlantis. To those cultures, the money is something precious and representative of value, much like it has become for me. So when I go through a values exercise, which is the first activity in the book, I identify my values as my beach money. This is what I hold sacred above all else. Although there has been growth in my choice of words, the core values have basically stayed the same. So when I go through and I decide what my core values are, that's what I'm talking about. Instead of family, friends, and pets having separate slots on my values list now, they comprise community. Loyalty and truthfulness have been replaced with integrity. And the choice of words matters to me. To me, changing the words represents a transition or growth, a mindset growth. And so it goes on to talk about what values mean to us and which values we hold most sacred. And so the first activity is working through what your beach money is. I know it's kind of hard to see. It can't keep it perfectly straight and it's backwards. But if you can see this picture, that's kind of what I'm trying to show you. This is what we start out with. We start figuring out what's most important to us, what's in the way of getting there, where we're spending our energy, and how we can shift that. Because we found that if you can shift about 50% of your energy to the things on your values list, your anxiety is going to go down about 20-fold. Because when you worry about where you're putting your energy, that's what anxiety is. Does that make sense? So I wanted to kind of, I don't know, Malika, if you want me to go into an activity with everybody or if you want to open it up for questions and then go back.
I think we could dive right into the activity and then come to questions and answers. Unless
Okay.
somebody has like a burning question right now. If you do, you can unmute and just ask. Yeah, I'd say let's do that activity. That seemed to be a kind of natural flow. Let's follow it.
Okay. Well, I let my mom borrow my sticky notes because she's going through the activity, so I'm going to have to use a piece of paper. Okay, so if you want to follow along, go ahead. I think you might maybe get something out of it. This is not exactly how it is in the book. I changed it a little for our format here. But just draw a box on a piece of paper or use a Post-it or a piece of paper and place it in front of you. Okay, we'll go back to it, but you don't need to do anything with it right now. Now, if you have another piece of paper, okay, just write down a goal that you have for yourself that you haven't reached yet. I'll do it with you guys too. Okay. Now, if you have Post-its, this is great, and that's why I love them, because otherwise you might need to rip off another piece of paper from your paper. See how I've ripped mine in two. Okay, and write something in your life that you'd like to get rid of, something that you've been trying to get rid of for a while and just can't seem to shake it, whether it's a habit or an addiction or a person, place, or thing. Okay. So this original paper, the first one that's blank, this is our comfort zone. Okay. Everything in here we're very comfortable with. What's out here is change. And as I learned in a recent training, change and comfort do not run in the same herd. Okay, so anything out here feels unsafe in a way. It might be exciting unsafe, or it might be fearfully unsafe, but either way, we don't know what's out there and our brain is gonna think, should we do that? Anything in here we feel pretty confident is safe, or at least we know what to expect. So if you go back to your goal, now the fan is really messing me up with the paper. Okay, so here's my goal. If you put that Post-it down in front of you, how far away is your goal from that comfort zone? Just place it as far away as you think it needs to be, or as close. And then do the same thing with what you'd like to get rid of. Put it as close to that comfort zone or as far away. And it's not the idea of getting rid of it, it's the actual thing. So if you put like binging on Netflix, that's it. Or, a toxic relationship, it might be on top of your comfort zone, right? Because that's something that we're very used to and we're afraid to let go of it. Okay? So just look at it for a second, and what do you notice? Like, what thoughts come up when you look at your comfort zone and you look at where your goals are? So one goal is to get rid of something, and the other goal is to achieve something. Is there anything anyone wants to share about what they see before we move a little bit further into this? Okay, so the next part, what we're going to do is I want you to just think of one thing, and you can either write it down. I think that writing things down is powerful. We'll talk about that in the book. So write it down if you can, but think it in your head if you can't. What is the one barrier that stops you from reaching that goal? And is it the same barrier that stops you from getting rid of something that you want to get rid of? And I will say that normally our goal of what we want to get rid of is embedded in our comfort zone, and that the other one seems far away and unachievable. But when we're in a good space and we're in control and anxiety is not in control, those things reverse and flip-flop. And so this is a good exercise to come back to now and then and say, how far away does that really feel right now? Or how embedded does this feel to me? And you might notice a shift, right? It's a visual shift that we can see, which I really like. Because if we just talked about it, you don't notice the difference as much, right? So there's one more activity I'd like to do if you guys are up for it. And it involves a little bit of writing again, but not as many moving things around. So if we could make a list, and if you can think of 5 things, that's a great number. But if you only come up with 3, I mean, it's not a test. I won't quiz you. 5 things that you put energy into every day. And there's no cap on this. You can put whatever you want. It's what you put energy into. And you can make 2 lists, one for a work day, one for a day off if you want. Or you can just do one for a regular day. I feel like I work 7 days a week sometimes, and my list is pretty similar. I like to do it too. Now, if I tell you that worry, and it can be specific worry or worry in general, it can be worrying about what people think, worrying about your health, worrying about your parents, your kids, COVID, your job. If worry was something that we would put in our top 5, would it be in one of your top 5 lists? Is it something that you thought of before to add, or are you just thinking about it now? Because it's kind of a sneaky thing. We think, okay, yeah, this is what I put my energy into every day. Then when we add worry to that list, sometimes it's a top 1 or 2. So see if that shifts your list at all. And then my next question would be, are any of these things on your list your number 1 priority in life or your number 1 value? Are there 2 or more things on there that are values to you, top values, on your daily list of where you spend your energy? Now, if you go and look at your list again, we're going to do one more thing with the list. Go through and just label each thing on the list as an obligation. So something you have to do pretty much no matter what, unless there's a huge lifestyle change, okay, lifestyle change. Or is it an optional? Is it something that if you learned how to, you wouldn't have to put energy into it anymore? Mine, for example, would be financial security. I'm really bad at saving money. So that's one for me that's an optional. If I could just learn better ways of managing, that wouldn't have to take up my energy on a daily basis. That's my share of the day. So I know that's kind of a lot to think about, but it's a good place to start. And it's not exactly how the activities go in the book, but they're similar. And in every chapter, you're building upon these ideas. And it's not so much about medically, how do you deal with anxiety? It's like, where's my energy going? Why is it going there? Okay, that's why it's going there. What can I do to fix that? And so that's kind of my approach to working with anxiety. And of course, you can use the book however you want. It's written in 25 activities, but they don't necessarily have to go in the order that they're in the book too. So that is my experiential for the day. I would love to hear if anyone noticed anything as they went through that activity. If you loved it or hated it, it's fine too, if you want to comment on that.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I really like the visual representation of moving things in reference to our comfort zone. I think that's very helpful. As writers, we love writing stuff down. Most of us, spend a lot of
I
time
bet.
doing that. but it was the visual kind of like that was made it a lot different of an experience to me. But I wanted to see if anybody had any questions for Cheryl. Did people find it helpful? Did other people have that same experience of the difference between like writing it down and then moving it? Like the moving pieces made something shift for me. When I realized, oh yeah, no, that's right in my comfort zone. The other one's a little further away, the goal versus the bad habit.
Yeah, I call that Post-it therapy. So I have people put the Post-its up on a board.
I like it. It's helpful. And Sarah, you had something you wanted to add with that?
I was really shocked when Cheryl suggested, like, okay, now think about what you worry about and where does that fall? And that had not gone on my list initially. Like, and as you said, I was not aware of that. And I was like, wow, well, that's right up at number one, worrying like about what are this, did I do that right or wrong? Or like these sort of things that are so part of my brain that I'm not even aware of. And so that was really interesting. And then sort of asking yourself, where's my energy going? Why? And what can I do to fix that? So it surprised me.
Yeah, when she asked, what do you worry about? Is that on the list? It was kind of like, wait, what?
Right. Like that's number one, but I hadn't even put it on there. Yeah. So.
And the way you just phrased it, Sarah, made me think about in terms of like plugging up energy leaks. I mean, that's it. Essentially, worry is this thing that sends out all this energy. And if you become aware of it, you can plug it up and not lose so much energy throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Betty, did you had something you wanted to add? I couldn't tell.
I wanted to know, where can we get the book?
Yeah, Cheryl, we could probably put that into
The chat room or something.
yeah, in the chat room, and people are writing it. So I want that. Thank you, Betty. That's perfect. Do you have the link, Cheryl? I can go looking for it.
I can look for it too. I also, if anyone's local to Greenville, I had bought 50 copies to have like for clients and things like that. But I'd also be willing to just like, if you want to buy it cheaper than it is on Amazon. But there's
on Amazon, right?
What?
You can buy it on Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And there's a paperback and an ebook version.
Awesome.
I have 2 granddaughters that are just riddled with anxiety all the time. And I don't know, it's so sad.
How old are they?
It can be crippling. One is 24 and the other one is 20.
Yeah, well, I think that for a younger generation, so I've used this with all ages, but if you get the book and you kind of look through some stuff, I think that they really enjoy building
Right.
what it is that they care, because it's not just about what we worry about, it's what we care about as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've done it with my son a little bit here and there, and he's 9. So like all ages.
Yeah, people are putting some really helpful things in the chat section too. That is really helpful.
Yeah, I didn't know. Do you want to read those or?
Yeah, I do. And I will send the copy of that to you so that you can see what people were saying. Oh, wow. So Chrissy said it gave me a lot to think about. Moving made a difference for her as well. And so again, I think it's that visual representation. Some of us are very visually oriented anyway, and so to see it in that kind of context makes a big difference. And Lakeisha, hang on just a second. I saw your comment just came up and now it's gone again. Let me see if I can get
Yeah, and actually in the book, there's a little place where it kind of breaks down some of the interventions in terms of what kind of learner you are, how to do like the 3rd activity in each chapter based on what kind of learner you are.
Thank you for doing that. That's so helpful because a lot of times people just assume that, you're more auditory or, and some of us are super kinetic as well. I know for my daughter, something actually moving around makes a big difference. So Sandy said, I thought it was interesting that my number one value wasn't on the top 5 and I put my energy into. It wasn't on the top. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Number one value, not in the top 5. I think that that is like an insight that a lot of us kind of went, wait,
Yep.
am I
That's how
putting
mine
my
was
energy?
originally.
Say that again, Cheryl?
That's how mine was originally, for sure.
Yeah. Christy added some things I didn't realize until I wrote it down. Very true, very real. Rachel, I worry about my daughter's anxiety, which creates my anxiety, which is very similar to what Betty was saying. It's painful to watch other people suffer that we love. Rob wrote, having read the whole book today, I found that there are a lot of visual exercises which help a lot. Rachel said, I'll take one. I'll see you next week. Lakeisha said, I realized 3 of the 4 things that I put my energy into have become my biggest stressors. The other 2 are what I strive for each day for myself. If I don't get my 2, then it makes the others harder to put energy into. Okay, I meant 3 out of 5. Yeah. So a lot of times what we put our energy into can later on kind of become the stressor.
Yeah, and actually, like Keisha, that brings up a good point that if you don't expect, like if you have 100 units of energy in one day and you only spend 20, you might still feel exhausted at the end of the day. But if you spend 80 of them in those 2 things that you love, you might end the day feeling 120.
Yeah.
And research shows that we get more energy putting energy into the things we love than not putting energy into anything.
That makes sense, though. I mean, that makes sense that if we put it into something that we love, it kind of gives back to us. I mean, I think that makes sense. Okay, Ryan said, just found it on Amazon. Happy I can buy the actual book and not just the ebook. I think a lot of people have that that tangible. And then Sandra said, wonderful activity. I'm curious if you have done very much research or exploration on the correlation between anxiety and memory loss. And actually, I was just talking to somebody about that.
Yeah, and so if you want to talk about short-term anxiety, you know what happens is anxiety is just fear, right? Our brain is afraid of something. We don't know why. We don't know if it's happening now or the past or the future. And if we're scared or we're in danger, unsafe, are we going to remember things? Are we going to remember what my mom said was on the grocery list? We're not, because we're worried about survival. We're not thriving. We're surviving. So there's a lot of research out there on that. And long-term memory loss can be the same. It's just another part of your brain.
Yeah, the long-term effects of anxiety. And certainly in the moment, you think about cortisol and flooding the system with neurotransmitters that aren't going to help us. We're certainly not going to be as resilient, able to adapt and come back as quick when we're under that stress of anxiety. Oh, and then somebody else wrote, I love having something tangible while working through this.
Yeah, I'm glad. And actually, I have a friend who's a doctor, and they were like, well, just sell this book telling people you'll add years to their life if they read it. And I was like, well, I mean, maybe, because, anxiety does affect all our systems. I know this isn't like a webinar on anxiety, but it affects every system in your body, because, again, your body's not thriving anytime that you're worried. It's surviving. And we want to be in thrive as much as possible.
Awesome. Does anybody have any other questions? I don't want to move on too quickly. And you can also, if you wanted to ask a question of Ellen.
Oh, yeah.
Because I really did. I love that you're here. And obviously, to me, that shows like the connection that you kind of have to have with a writing coach.
Could we switch to gallery view for a sec?
Yep,
so that I can see other people.
You can also go to gallery view.
I keep clicking on it and oh, it just worked.
Okay.
Don't know why. Hey, Lauren. Just saw you. Oh my goodness, the baby. I'm gonna have to call you later.
You're just happy to see everybody. That's awesome. So how did that work? So Ellen, obviously, as a writing coach, would you talk about what your role is with working with somebody?
Sure. That's different though with every single writer because everybody is so very different, and I like to meet people where they are. And with Cheryl, boy, it was such a joy because her idea was so clear, and she had all these wonderfully concrete exercises already going on in her head, and she already had so much. I mean, it was all in her head. I mean, of course it was. It was just a matter of, okay, how to organize it, how to structure it. That was always the key thing. And I know that I had the sense that she was having some anxiety around is that fair? Around how to structure it. And it was really just about sort of taking it literally piece by piece, puzzle piece by puzzle piece. So in the case of working with Cheryl, it was about sort of meeting her where she was, getting really entrenched in her idea. I happened to be very interested personally in the topic, which of course helped tremendously. I'm surrounded by it both personally and in my family. So it was a topic that I was on board, and she was teaching me the whole time. So it was just a matter of like, okay, how to get the ideas out and how to separate them out. And very quickly she came up with a table of contents everything is the table of contents. If you're doing a long form book and you have even the draft skeleton of a structure, even if you change it later, it's just great that moment that you have just the first draft of a big picture idea of the structure. And that probably took the longest. I'm trying to remember. That felt to me that was probably the part that you struggled with most. Is that a fair?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, structure. So once we got that table of contents.
Yeah, and then, but after that, it seemed like basically once you have the table of contents, you have your assignments. Mm-hmm. And so, and you're very good with assignments. Like
I am good with, I'm a good student.
On it. I mean, on it. And that part, so the fact that she was so ready to go, she was so ready to go. She had all these concrete ideas. Once she hooked into this Joule thief idea, which I loved, that was such a visual core value for her, with all this visual opportunity to play with. I mean, that was just beautiful to witness. And then the last piece for me, which was incredible, is her goal was to get it down in a year, to get a draft of this thing down in a year. And by golly, she did that. I mean,
2 days to spare.
Pardon?
It was 2 days to spare.
Yeah, right. It was almost to the day.
Yep.
We were like April of 2019 to April of 2020. Was it? Time is starting to be like, what? Yeah. So was it this April? Yeah, this April. And I can't believe you finished it in April and here it is released already. That's amazing. So,
well, COVID does some good things too.
Right. It's an organizing principle for a lot of people.
I will say that the best advice I got from Ellen was to do the hardest part first, because we did the intro first, and it's now broken down into chapter 1, the intro, the forward, and the afterward actually. But I mean, that's what I call like eating the frog, doing the worst part first. Mm-hmm. And it was a great part, but it was the hardest. But that first session on the phone with Ellen, I had Post-its all over the wall in my office. And my mom came in, I was like, you gotta go. She just like thought I was crazy. And as we were talking, I was moving the Post-its around. And so if anyone needs a place to start, if you're looking for a longer project, like, I don't know, that worked for me if you're visual.
That's awesome. I never thought to do that. That's great. I think you're the Post-it queen.
I might be.
That's true. She could do a commercial for Post-it.
That's great.
No, that's also, it's great to hear about the process of how y'all work together, and the things that you found challenging, Cheryl, makes sense. I think coming up with the exercises and the idea certainly makes sense for, you as a creative therapist. Yeah. But eating the frog, there's a term I had not heard. Thanks for that. Well, do people feel like doing one more exercise, or want to go to questions? Christy said, I love the phrase eating the
It
frog.
almost
Yeah,
makes
me
me
too.
sound very Southern, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I've never heard it before, though.
I'd
But
love to do another exercise.
Okay, Betty says another exercise. Is there one that you have, Cheryl, that you would be willing to share?
Okay.
Yeah, the exercises do really kind of put things immediately right.
Do you guys
in
want to do a
context.
writing one, or do you want to try to do a more mindful one? Mindful in your brain.
Anybody
Any
have a?
takers? All right,
Those-
well, I'll do this one. I have to read it right from the book, though. I had a mindful book, so here we go. Okay. So if you want to, you can close your eyes. If not, just try to clear your head of past and current anxieties. Allow them to enter, pass through. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, just think free and clear. Right now is nap time for your anxieties. We're going to spend some time visualizing our own future that we are going to lay out for ourselves from here on out. So we're going to split time a little bit. There's where we were before this moment, what we did, and what we thought about and what we worried about. There's the future of who we're going to be after this moment, and there's right now. Ask yourself these questions as you picture yourself in your most perfect moment right now. What do I look like? What would I like to be wearing? What would make me feel me? What am I eating? Drinking? Who am I with? In our most perfect moment, who do we want to spend that with? Or are you alone? What is your focus on right now? I want you to just visualize sending all of your energy to that one focal point, whether it's your value, your goal, or just being present. As you look around, what do your surroundings look like? How do they make you feel? What do you smell around you? What do you hear? Sit in and with this vision and imagine yourself living this life every day. Breathe deeply in and out. And as you breathe in, remember that you're breathing deeply in the future that you're going to create for yourself.
I like that. Yeah, it was nice to do something more mindful and visual. Thank you, Cheryl, very much. I want to clap. That was awesome.
This was really fun. You guys were wonderful too. I hope you got at least a little tidbit to think about for the next few days or forever.
No, it was awesome. It was really nice to get a couple of different. Oh, Keisha said that gave me chills. That helped a lot.
Good.
Oh, yeah, mindful is what people said. Lauren said the Monopoly one.
Oh, that's one of the exercises in the book. Do you like that one?
Oh, she's got a baby with her.
I think your dad had sent me that one.
Oh, okay.
That's fantastic.
Like on mistake, I think so.
some reason it
Rachel
would go
also
away.
said that she agreed with Keisha, and Sarah said that was great. Thank you. That was awesome, Cheryl. Thank you
Yeah,
so
it
very
was
much.
awesome.
Cool.
Well, we have 2 poets that are going to read, so I hope people are open for that. I had John and Betty wanted to read. Is that the
Am I allowed
extent?
to stay and listen for this part? Because I would
Yes,
love to.
please
Okay.
do. So, John, do you want to go
Thank you,
first?
Sandra.
I can if Betty doesn't want to go first.
You can go first, John.
All right. I have a short little poem. It's three whole lines long, and I like a lot of imagery, and this is like images called artwork or possibly birth. You detach her right rib cage and then her left. They open like a pair of wings, and that's that poem.
Oh,
Yay, thank you.
You know,
John, that just reminded me of Karen would be saying, and that's how John ends his poems, and that's that. We're done here. Oh, I love this compliment. Sandra wrote, as a retired teacher, I must say that your questions are superb. Cheryl, for you. And Betty, if you, there we go. I'll come to you and make you the spotlight.
okay. This is a poem that I wrote when I was a teenager, goes to show you how old it is. And it was published on, I think it was your daily poem back in the early, it's like 2014 or 2015, but that's a little background on it. My pink trimline telephone smiles at me in the dark. It caresses my ear as my warm hand holds it tight. On many sleepless nights, next to my snoring sister, I have no one to call, but I pick it up to hear the dial tone on my pink trimline telephone. The dial casts a shadow on the wall in front of glass tanks that hold my sister's snakes. But that's another story.
Thanks, Betty.
You're welcome.
Awesome. I like the visual of the phone and then the shock of the snakes. For some reason, I was expecting, of course, fish. And then when you went to snakes, I was like, oh, no.
It's true. Thanks.
Betty. Ellen had to leave Cheryl. She said she had another Zoom appointment, but she said it was great. And she's so excited for you, Cheryl. So she'll be giving you a call later. Do I have anybody else that wanted to read? Oh, and then Sarah, I love the visuals in both y'all's poems. So cool. Yeah, it's nice to have poets in with things like visualization. All right. I don't have anybody else listed for a poem, so let's give another round of applause for Cheryl. Thank you for doing this, Cheryl. I know that it was, you didn't know what to expect, but you trusted me. You have to unmute.
Thank you so much for doing this, Malika. I really appreciate the chance and to get to meet y'all. I feel like we should invite John over to the farm. Does he live near us?
No, he's far away.
Maybe
John,
when
you're
COVID's over.
in Kentucky, right?
yeah, I would definitely come though. I see your pictures and stuff, and oh my lord! And then the 2 poems you read for I can't ever say her name. I get names wrong. But
Kai
the 2
Coggin?
Wednesday poems.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see all your animals, and then here sometimes. Oh, I definitely come. Like
Yeah.
most definitely.
But John has a whole bunch. He got to have puppies and kittens, and so I've vicariously been seeing his baby animals too.
Yes. But yeah, it's your animals are so exciting, and I'd ride a horse if you'd let me too. I love riding horses.
Okay, so just to let you know, Cheryl and I, that is our partnership together. She does equine facilitated psychotherapy, and she's the therapist, and sometimes I get to participate as the equine professional. So that's.
And if she ever posts pictures of a beautiful gray horse, that one's mine.
I was gonna say, and that the fancy horse is hers. The big butt sofa girls are mine.
But yeah, riding horses is the most real for me, like so relaxing and peaceful and beautiful and fun. I used to have 2 horses when I was younger, and I would spend
Oh.
all my days with them.
Well, and that leads right into, lots of different ideas that Cheryl and I would talk your ear off about why there is something so healing and magnificent about horses. And we do a lot of work with developing relationships with your horses. Just, exact same relationship principles that we would use or that we would have guide us in human to human relationships. So
I think
I would
people
say
are
there's
better with
something,
animals than they are humans.
yeah.
Well, we're hoping to relate those skills that they have with animals to humans. That's our goal, right?
Yes. But Christy, I think you're saying that it's a lot easier sometimes with
Oh
animals.
yeah,
And I think that's
definitely.
and a lot of people would agree with you and say that it's partly because animals are not judgmental in the same way. A horse doesn't look at you and go, well, I don't like those tennis shoes, or, why is your hair purple?
Put down the spoon.
Yeah.
My horse might say that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of different things that horses might say, but usually they want to know who are you as a person on the deep inside.
Also, I don't mean to be rude. Me and Sandra, and I'm talking for Sandra too, because she's like, I don't want to be rude and leave, but we have another Zoom to go
Oh,
to.
no worries, y'all
So
are
I'm so
fantastic.
sorry.
It was so wonderful. I really don't want to leave.
Oh,
But,
Sandra,
yeah.
I so look forward to having you and celebrating your book with you. So
Thank you.
everybody be on the lookout for when Sandra comes back.
Yeah,
and-
everyone has to come. She's an amazing poet,
You're so
and you'll
sweet.
love her poems. And she's
Cheryl,
so much fun.
I just have to say, you have no idea how helpful this is to me personally, hearing this.
So happy to hear that. That's why I wrote the book,
Thank
was
you.
hoping
And I will be
help
getting
some
your
people.
book. And just being with this group just feels so good. Thank you so much. Really can't wait to be back with you all. Thank you.
I can't wait either. Be well.
Bye.
Bye, John. Bye, Sandra.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, Cheryl. Sorry, I'm horrible at names. And
No, it's good. It was great to meet you, John. I really,
Yeah, great
I
to
hope
meet
that I
you too,
can
and it was
come
super
back sometime.
helpful. And I'll be taking time and just focusing on myself and everything and stuff. So yeah, I like both of them. And the last one, I just closed my eyes and just kind of melted away from this and everything. So thank you for the tips
Awesome.
and everything. And I will see you later, Malika.
Malika. Yep. Bye, John. Be well. Thank you. Leslie wrote, thanks, Cheryl. I really like that last activity. I often breathe to relax, but that took it to a whole nother level. So that not just the breathing, but the visualization in addition. And oftentimes that's a harder one to facilitate yourself. I mean, you can facilitate your own breathing, but a visualization, it's kind of nice to have a guide. So that was helpful. All right, guys. Well, thank you so very much, Cheryl. Once again, you can go on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles and get the book. And Sandra
Yeah, if you
said,
can't
thank
find
you.
the link, you can just go to CherylMeola.com. Do you want to type that in the chat,
Yeah,
Malika?
that's perfect. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming,
All right,
guys. It was
everybody,
great to
so-
see some faces I
Thank
haven't seen in
you.
a long time.
Congratulations, Cheryl. I feel like it's an honor to be here celebrating your huge accomplishment.
Thank you so much. Well, I wrote some of that book with you, hanging out in coffee shops.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
well, this is amazing. I'm excited to read the whole thing. So
Cool. Well, I can't wait till I can meet that little bundle of joy.
That's what I was going to say. Lauren, how
you
old
wrote
is
it
the
with
baby?
him too, by the way. Oh, can you say hi?
How old is
bud?
he now? Like 3 months?
He's 2 months.
2 months.
Oh, let's say hi. Hi, bud.
Oh,
Oh, so cute.
So congratulations on the book. I'm just thrilled.
Thank you. I can't wait to see you again.
all right, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank
Be
you.
well. It was great seeing
Bye,
everybody. Bye,
Kayla.
Linda. Bye,
Good
Kayla.
night.
I love
Bye,
seeing all your stuff on Facebook, Kayla.
Christy.
Bye.
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
What?
I said if you guys need an OT at your practice, let me know. And